visiting family in another state, or maybe a business trip. Whatever your reason is for renting a room, make sure your doors are locked and that you're not being watched. Without further hesitation, let's begin. This happened a few years ago, but I still think about this to this day. I was on holiday in a city on the other side of the country, celebrating my 21st birthday with my best friend. We were having a great night, having way too many drinks, and ended up meeting two guys, Andrew and Billy. They seemed like really cool guys, and we were into them, so when they asked us to come back to the hotel room, we said yes. Things were great on the way back to the hotel room. We were all laughing and having a great time. When we got to the hotel room, there was two other men there as well, Ricky and JD. They were at least 10 to 15 years older than us. We asked Andrew and Billy who these guys were, and they said that they were colleagues as they were in the city for work, and the company paid for their rooms. So Andrew and Billy were in different rooms, but we were all partying in Andrew's room that he shared with Ricky. I got a little too drunk and my friend put me to bed. She said that she was going to Billy's room and asked if I would be okay with Andrew, and I said yes. So I was in bed with Andrew for a while, just talking and chilling when he says, "I just have to pop out and I'll be right back." Anyway, I was just watching TV in the bed when I heard the bedroom door open, and I assumed that it was Andrew, but my heart sank when it was Ricky. He walked into the room and sat on the bed. Keep in mind, I'm very naked at this point, trying to cover myself up with a blanket. Then he said,
"You do realize that everyone has left you alone in here, right? It's just you, all alone. No one is here, and no one can hear you."
He continued edging closer and closer to me on the bed. At this point, I was completely speechless and absolutely terrified. I was completely frozen in fear, and I had no idea what to do. I tried to say something, but nothing would come out. He definitely sensed my fear, and for some reason, he just got up and left. A sense of relief flooded over me, and I felt silly for overreacting. That's until I heard JD.
"Get back in there. What are you doing? This isn't what we discussed. Get back in there and do what you were meant to do."
I ran to the bathroom and locked myself in. I was terrified, but there was no way out. And the only way through the hotel room was through the front door. I had to walk past Ricky and JD to get there. I was just so scared. I had a million thoughts rushing through my head, and I had no idea what to do, but I knew I had to escape. I decided my only option was just to leave the room and be ready to defend myself if things were to go pear-shaped. I threw my clothes on and grabbed my shoes. I opened the door, and Ricky and JD were just sitting on the couch close to the bedroom door. JD said,
"Hey, sexy. Where are you going in such a rush? Come and join us. Come here now."
I said no thanks and ran to the front door and ripped it open. When I got out, I was so relieved, but I was still in a random hotel in a random city with no way to contact my best friend, but I thought my best option was to go to the lobby and just wait. As I was walking, I heard two men yelling down the hall.
"Where are you? We know you aren't too far away to come back and join us. You know you want to."
It was Ricky and JD. I was absolutely petrified at this point. I began sprinting to the elevator. I could hear them gaining on me. I never knew I could run so fast, but I continued and didn't look back. I felt like I was running forever until I reached the end of the corridor, and my worst nightmare had come true. I missed the turn off the elevator, so I had to turn and run back towards where I could hear Ricky and JD still yelling down the hall. I found the elevator and got in. I could hear their voices getting louder and louder, and I didn't want to imagine what would happen if they got in the elevator with me. The door finally closed after what felt like a lifetime. I thought I would go down to the lobby and just wait there because at least there would be people there, so that's some form of security. I got to the lobby and realized that there was nobody in sight, no one at all, even behind the desk. I sat on a couch and didn't know what to do with myself. I was absolutely terrified that Ricky and JD would come down to the lobby. Then I heard the elevator ding and the door open. My heart dropped, but it was Andrew. I told him what happened, and he was outraged that his colleagues did that, and he took me to where my best friend was staying. Everything turned out fine, but it could have been much, much worse. My company would put us up in the Shilo Inn downtown when we were in Salt Lake City. A coworker of mine was awakened in the middle of the night by the sounds of a bunch of kids running in the hallway. It went on for longer than he could tolerate, so he opened the room door to tell them to hush, only to find the hallway empty. He could still hear the children, so, figuring they were in an adjoining room, he called down to the front desk to complain. The man at the front desk claimed to be certain that there were no kids on that floor, but he was certain that the noise would subside in a bit. He offered to send up some earplugs. My coworker was a bit annoyed, but went to bed and eventually fell back asleep. The next day, when he was checking out, a different clerk made the mistake of asking the routine question, "Was everything satisfactory with your stay?" My coworker gave her an earful about the noisy kids and how the other clerk had dismissed his complaints. The clerk looked a little uncomfortable and said in a half whisper, "We aren't supposed to talk about our history with guests, but please do a Google search for Rachel David, and then you'll understand what happened to you. We get similar complaints every few weeks, and we never try to put kids on that floor." In the van on the way to the airport, he read on his phone the story of how a mother, Rachel David, had tossed her 7 children off the 11th floor balcony of the hotel, then called the International Dunes to their deaths before jumping herself. I attended cosmetology school a few years back, and one time we went on a field trip to see a big show where they were going to show new hair and nail techniques. It was in a bigger city a few hours away from where I was attending school. We all sort of divided into our own groups to get hotel rooms for the show to save money. So me and 3 other girls booked one hotel room to stay in together. After we checked into the hotel and got into our room, we were all pretty excited to have a sleepover before the hair and fashion show tomorrow, so we decided to get some drinks and food. When we returned to the hotel an hour or so later, it was getting pretty late and a few of us were pretty tipsy, but we quietly headed to our room. I was sober, however, because at the time, I was just about to turn 21, so I couldn't get a drink at any of the bars. We were all just hanging out in our room, planning the day tomorrow, when sometime after 11 p.m., our hotel room phone rang. It kind of startled us because I've stayed at hotels quite a few times, and I never remember my phone ringing. I answered it and said, "Hello?" This was a few years ago now, so I don't remember the exact transcript of the conversation, but I will get as close as I can. A man on the phone replied, saying that we hadn't paid for our room and that one of us needed to come down to the lobby and pay our bill. Immediately, alarm bells went off in my head because we had paid for the room. We all pooled money and gave it to Molly. We even watched her pay when we checked in together. I don't think they would have given us room keys if we hadn't paid for the room. Plus, adding on top of the fact, if something did happen with billing, it would be super unprofessional to call somebody at 11 p.m. I replied that we had paid for the room, and that if there was a problem with billing, that we could sort it out tomorrow morning. The man insists that just one of us must come down, because our room isn't paid for, and that we won't be allowed to stay the night if one of us doesn't come down right now and pay for it. He sounded frustrated. Honestly, I'm a paranoid person, and this whole thing felt so wrong that there was no way I was letting any of us go down to the lobby that night. I told him that we would be staying in our room until they decided to remove us. This time, he sounds even more frustrated, insisting that one of us must come down or there'll be consequences. That was the last straw for me, as now I'm sure something bad was happening, so I just hung up the phone and figured, if this is really someone from the hotel, they will come up to our room or we'll deal with it tomorrow. My classmates in the room with me said, "What the hell was that?" I said I got a really bad feeling from the dude and explained to them what happened. Thankfully, they all agreed that we paid the bill, and it was basically unheard of for a hotel front desk to call you in your room past 11 p.m. So, we were a bit on edge and eventually fell asleep. No one came to kick us out. The next morning, as we went to check out, we asked the person working in the front desk what the call last night was about, and did we need to make a payment. They had no idea what we were talking about, and they insisted that the front desk would have not called us at such an hour. We all just sort of looked at each other and were extremely freaked out, so we just sort of left quickly after that. I forgot about this pretty quickly after it happened, since nothing bad actually went down, but thinking back on this now, it seems so scary. Who called us, and why did they want one of us to come down to the lobby in the middle of the night? How did they know what room we were in? Honestly, the more I think about it, the more creeped out I get. In 2019, me, my boyfriend, my best friend, and her partner stayed at an Airbnb in Sandusky, Ohio for a convention. There were several red flags about this place, but it was much cheaper than the hotel near the convention hall, so we opted for there. The first red flag happened as soon as we arrived. The owner greeted us and made a point to tell us that his house was directly next door. As in, if there weren't any trees, he would have been able to see directly in the windows where we were staying. Okay, so he had a few houses on the property. No big deal, right? Wrong. It only got worse from there. Per instruction, we were forbidden to go into the basement under any circumstances unless there was a tornado. Being the young, curious adults we were, we opened the door anyway, and we were going to investigate, but stopped in our tracks as soon as we saw the directions the stairs were facing, directly towards the owner's home. In the darkness, there was a faint electronic glow. We quickly shut the door, barricaded it with luggage. Again, the owner's home was so close, there could have been easily something connecting his house to the basement. A little weirded out at this point, we went and looked at the rest of the house. It was a nice and spacious place with a narrow staircase that led to the second floor, where our bedrooms would be. We selected our rooms and began to unwind after the long drive. In my boyfriend's and I's room, there was a single random sprinkler in the middle of the ceiling that looked out of place. We were tired from the trip, so I didn't think much of it then. But looking back at it now, there's a high chance it was a hidden camera. Things only got weirder from there. We were gone most of the next day at the convention, and when we returned, one of the outside doors that we definitely locked was unlocked and slightly ajar. My friends and I collectively shared a look of panic and closed and locked the door. My best friend's partner suggested that maybe the owner needed to get something out of there while we were gone, and didn't close the door completely on the way out. We made sure all of our things were still there, and then soon forgot about it because we discovered something more pressing. The locks on both of the bedroom doors were now ineffective. We told ourselves they were already like that and we just didn't notice, but I'm not sure if I believe that. On our second to last night, my boyfriend and I were both restless about what had been happening at the Airbnb and the day's activities, so we decided to try to find something on TV to watch to take our minds off of it. We were flipping through the channels on the TV when suddenly we came across a Windows 10 lock screen and no computer in sight. I opened the cabinets to look around, trying to find a computer. The dresser the TV was on was too heavy to move to look behind. But seeing where the wires were positioned, they could have very well gone through the wall and into the basement. We were too frightened to see the basement for ourselves to confirm or deny the suspicions of surveillance and owner interference of who knows what else. Needless to say, we left as quickly as possible that last day there and didn't look back. I was on a date in Camden with a girl who from photos I wasn't overly excited about, but in flesh made my eyebrows shoot off my head. She was really pretty, smart, and funny. We had quite a few cocktails, and I think it was the Blues Kitchen before going to the gay bar in Camden, which has since closed down. I think it was called the Black Cat. The date is going well, and we meet these people who join our table. The guy tells me at the bar that my date said she wanted to kiss me. I felt the same way, and it turned out the guy was just helping us out by moving things along. My date was really shocked and told me that I was bold, but she liked it. She came back to my hotel room with me, which was about a 10-minute walk away. The room was kind of small, but cool and modern and in style. We both were drunk and started having some fun. Then she started crying about problems she was having with a friend who was really sick and that her job was really stressful. Full on sobbing. She left in embarrassment. Even though I was worried about her leaving like that, she said she would be okay. As she left, I saw a large man in a black thick leather jacket in the corridor. He was staring at my date as she left, and then started to stare at me as I closed the door. I was pretty wasted, so after checking that my date got on the bus, I had a nap, and I was woken up by banging on the door. I ignored it, but it kept going. So I got up and staggered to the door, and opened it a crack. I recognized the leather elbow, and the arm as the door was shoved open violently. I was drunk, and the jolt of the door caused me to fall over. Luckily, the room entrance was small and around the width of the door, so my back was against the wall by the door while my feet touched the other wall. My body kept the door closed as this man kept shoving against it. I managed to get it closed again, locked it, and then went back to bed since I was still drunk. When I woke up in the morning, I thought I had dreamt about the man and the door, but when I looked down at the side of my ribs, hips, and thighs, I had dark bruises all over. I was really lucky, and I'm so glad that the room was tight on space, because if it hadn't been, that guy would have gotten in pretty easily. You're better off sleeping at a friend's house, or better yet, staying home. If you have any true creepy stories, please send them in. I'd love to read them. Thank you for stopping by, and stay safe out there.